Okay, let's unpack this. Picture this. A phone rings in the middle of a busy shift at a fast food restaurant.
Right.
The voice on the other end is calm, authoritative, claiming to be a police officer.
Mm.
What unfolds next is a sequence of bizarre and deeply disturbing instructions that sound utterly unbelievable, yet this exact scenario played out not just once, but repeatedly across America.
Yeah, it's quite a story.
We're diving into the chilling story of a communication fraudster who impersonated law enforcement, a decade-long pattern of events that it'll leave you questioning the very nature of authority and obedience.
What's immediately striking is the audacity, isn't it? Someone leveraging the power of just a phone call
Yeah.
and, the assumed legitimacy of a police officer to command these deeply personal and humiliating actions. It makes you think about how readily we tend to comply with figures of authority, even without seeing them.
Oh, absolutely. It's like those classic social psychology experiments, but happening for real in fast food places.
Exactly.
So for this deep dive, we're plunging into the details drawn from what's been compiled as CEO Chonier. Think of it as our collated source material on this case.
Right, our main source doc.
Our mission today is to go way beyond the surface-level news reports. We want to dissect the key events, understand the truly strange motivation fueling these crimes, and sort of navigate the surprising twists that kept investigators on this relentless pursuit for years.
Yeah, it's not just a summary.
No, definitely not. We're aiming to uncover the fascinating and, frankly, deeply unsettling core of this story for you.
And it's vital to keep in mind that while the specifics might seem surreal, almost like fiction, the impact on the individuals targeted was profoundly real and incredibly traumatic. Understanding that human cost is essential to grasping the true weight of this narrative.
Absolutely crucial. So let's lay the groundwork. The basic scam was terrifyingly simple in its execution, really.
Deceptively so.
A man would phone a fast food restaurant, convincingly impersonate a police officer, and inform the manager that a young female employee was suspected of stealing a customer's wallet.
Okay.
He would then instruct the manager to conduct a full strip search to recover this, non-existent stolen item.
And the caller's methods were key to his success, weren't they?
Totally.
He was described as speaking calmly, respectfully, specifically stating he was calling from a local police department.
Right, making it sound local, official.
That immediately created an aura of legitimacy. And he'd further reassure the manager that an official would be arriving at the restaurant shortly.
So reinforcing the idea that this was all above board.
Exactly. That this was standard, maybe unusual, but standard procedure.
And the sheer vulnerability of these young employees, coupled with the disturbing willingness of managers to comply with these, outlandish requests, is just staggering.
It really is.
The first documented case from our sources dates back to September 4th, 2004, at a McDonald's.
Okay, 2004.
Investigator Patty Stamp, who became deeply involved in this case, initially described the details as crazy and incomprehensible. You can almost picture his disbelief, right? Someone dealing with everyday crime encountering something so weird.
That initial reaction from an experienced law enforcement professional speaks volumes, doesn't it?
Definitely.
It immediately flags this as something far outside the realm of typical criminal behavior.
So when Patty arrived at the McDonald's, he found a scene thick with shame and distress, as you'd expect.
Must have been awful.
He spoke with the assistant manager, Donna Summers, who was 51 years old, and the young employee who was targeted, Louise.
Louise, okay.
Louise, we learned, was an 18-year-old who had recently become the sole provider for her family. Her mother had lost her job, faced serious health issues.
Oh, wow. So she was under a lot of pressure already.
Exactly. She was just trying to make ends meet.
That detail about Louise's circumstances adds such a significant layer to the tragedy.
It really does.
She was already in a precarious position, working to support her family, which likely made her more susceptible, maybe, to the demands of someone claiming authority.
You'd think so. So the fake officer on the phone provided a description of the supposed thief, small with brown hair. A description that, surprise, surprise, matched Louise.
Right. Convenient.
He then instructed Donna Summers, the assistant manager, to conduct a strip search to locate the stolen wallet.
And Louise's reaction?
Well, understandably, she was initially annoyed by this accusation and then became increasingly fearful as the demands escalated.
The escalation here was gradual, wasn't it?
Right.
But incredibly manipulative.
Textbook manipulation.
Starting with a seemingly straightforward accusation and then moving to this deeply invasive demand, all under the pretense of official police procedure. It's a stark example of how trust and authority can be weaponized.
And it only gets worse from there. Following Donna's instructions, Louise was made to remove her clothing piece by piece
Oh, God.
until she was left in only her underwear and then completely naked.
Completely naked.
Yeah. This agonizing ordeal lasted for approximately an hour.
An hour.
An hour. After being forced to strip, she was just left alone, naked, in the back room. It's just hard to imagine the long-term psychological toll.
The feeling of utter isolation and profound vulnerability she must have experienced is almost unimaginable. The violation, the humiliation, it's deeply disturbing.
Meanwhile, Donna Summers remained on the phone with a fake officer, continuing to follow his increasingly bizarre instructions.
While still managing the restaurant.
Yes, simultaneously trying to manage the day-to-day operations of a busy McDonald's. Then, the manipulation extended even further.
How so?
Louise's fiancé, Walter Vinn, also became a target. The fake officer called them separately and directed him to come to the McDonald's.
Wow. So he's pulling more people in.
Exactly. This demonstrates the caller's escalating control. He's no longer just manipulating the employee and the manager, but actively drawing in a member of the victim's family, expanding the circle of his influence.
That's incredibly sinister.
And Walter, also under the caller's direction, subjected Louise to even more humiliating acts, having her sit, even jog.
Jog naked.
Yeah, all dictated by the voice on the phone. The caller's demands grew increasingly inappropriate and sexually suggestive.
Ugh.
But here's a crucial distinction from typical fraud. The caller wasn't after money.
Right. That's key.
His primary motivation appears to have been control and the infliction of humiliation.
This is a key element that sets this apart from standard financial scams, isn't it? The motivation here isn't monetary gain, but this, perverse desire for power over others.
To degrade and demean them.
Exactly. This kind of psychological manipulation where the reward for the perpetrator is purely the exercise of power and the degradation of others, while it often points to deeper, more complex personality issues.
So when investigator Patty Stamp finally reviewed the security footage, the reality of the crime became undeniable. Initially, Walter was arrested.
Because it looked like he was the one assaulting her.
From the outside, yes. But Patty had a different, more insightful theory. He realized the caller wasn't a thief, but someone seeking to exert control and inflict humiliation under the guise of authority, someone, as he put it, who was playing with victims like dolls.
Patty's insight there was critical. He looked beyond the immediate appearances and recognized the underlying manipulation. And that analogy, playing with dolls,
Yeah.
wow, it powerfully illustrates the dehumanizing nature of the caller's actions.
And adding another layer to Patty's dedication to this case. Get this. He had a personal connection to Louise.
Really?
Yeah, he was her neighbor, and his father was friends with her father.
No way. So he had a deep personal stake in finding the person responsible.
Absolutely. His initial theory was that the caller might even be physically close to the restaurant, maybe using a payphone,
And watching?
and perhaps even observing the events unfolding. That idea of the perpetrator being close, witnessing the humiliation, just adds another layer of chilling intent.
It certainly suggests premeditation and a desire to directly experience the victim's distress. It just amplifies how disturbing this whole thing is.
Then came a truly shocking revelation. Similar incidents had been reported at other McDonald's restaurants.
Other McDonald's.
Yes. And even the same fake name, Officer Scott, had been used.
Officer Scott. So it wasn't isolated at all.
Not even close. It was a widespread problem. 73 documented cases across 32 states, with the earliest similar call dating all the way back to 1994.
1994. Wow, a decade.
A decade-long pattern of abuse.
That discovery, revealing a sustained campaign of manipulation spanning that long over such a wide area, it really highlights the difficulty in connecting these seemingly isolated incidents without a bigger investigation, doesn't it?
It really does. Let's look back to 1999, for example, to a case in Blackfoot, Idaho, involving a young woman named Elizabeth at a pizzeria.
Okay, Idaho, 1999.
This was call number 26 in the overall sequence. And here, we see the same disturbing pattern, targeting small towns and young, likely more compliant fast food employees. This selection of small towns probably played a role, maybe potential isolation, less awareness of scams like this.
Yeah, makes sense. And young employees in fast food, often reliant on their jobs, might also be more hesitant to question authority, making them potentially more vulnerable.
Exactly. So the phone call followed a tragically familiar script. Description of a supposed thief, Elizabeth's denial of any wrongdoing,
Right.
and then the slow, insidious escalation of demands for her to remove her clothing.
Ugh, again.
Elizabeth became increasingly distressed, repeatedly insisting on her innocence. You can just imagine the psychological pressure building on her.
Being falsely accused of theft and then being ordered to strip by someone claiming to be police, I mean, it's a situation designed to overwhelm and break down resistance, a direct assault on her dignity.
In this particular case, though, a colleague named Derek intervened.
Oh,
He became suspicious, challenged the caller about, conducting a strip search potentially on a minor order. Elizabeth's age wasn't specified, but his concern is telling, and the call abruptly ended.
so Derek stopped it from going further.
Seems like it, yes. His intervention likely prevented more physical violation, but the manager's initial foolish compliance had already inflicted significant trauma on Elizabeth. Our source says it led to a period of self-destructive behavior for her.
Oh, that's terrible. It highlights the crucial role of bystanders, doesn't it? And the devastating consequences when authority figures fail to think critically. Elizabeth's subsequent struggles just underscore the lasting psychological damage these acts inflict, even when the physical violation wasn't as prolonged as in Louise's case.
Yeah, the trauma was deep regardless. Fast forward to 2002 to Debra at a Taco Bell in Georgia, call number 67.
Sure. Okay.
Once again, the manager complied with the fake officer's instructions for a strip search.
Unbelievable.
Debra, thankfully, questioned the legitimacy of the police procedure, and her manager's mistake was eventually exposed.
So she pushed back.
She did, but not before enduring severe trauma. It led her to quit her job, withdraw from university, and suffer from deep depression. Each case, similar pattern, but unique, devastating impacts.
The erosion of trust in authority, the profound feeling of violation, and the long-lasting psychological scars. They're recurring and deeply troubling themes across all these incidents.
Then there's a particularly disturbing case from 2003 in Rapid City, South Dakota, at a Hardee's.
Hardee's this time.
This involved a male assistant manager and a female employee. The fake officer's demands escalated to increasingly bizarre and impossible requests.
Impossible requests? Like what?
The source doesn't specify exactly, but it was enough that it finally triggered the assistant manager's suspicion. He realized it was likely a hoax.
Okay, so he figured it out eventually.
Yes, but here's a shocking twist. He was subsequently arrested and charged with kidnapping and rape based on his compliance with the caller's instructions.
What? The manager got charged?
Yes. This case takes a really dark turn, illustrating how the fraud could lead to further, very real legal repercussions for those who complied.
The fact that the assistant manager, even though he claimed he thought he was following police orders, was found guilty by the jury, that serves as a stark and tragic warning about the potential legal consequences of blindly following instructions, especially when they involve such invasive and unlawful acts.
It's just a horrifying ripple effect. Okay, let's return to Patty Stamp and the Louise case back in Kentucky.
Right, back to Patty.
A crucial clue finally emerged. A quick-thinking employee at the McDonald's managed to retrieve the phone number that the caller had used.
Ah, the number.
Finally! It turned out to be connected to a prepaid calling card.
Okay, those anonymous cards.
Exactly. The
What?
types you could buy at stores with a fixed amount of calling time, often used from public payphones to avoid being traced. It was clearly a deliberate tactic by the fraudster to stay hidden.
Yeah, those cards, especially used from payphones back then, made tracing calls incredibly difficult, a layer of anonymity.
Now, around the same time as that McDonald's call in 2004, 4 Wendy's restaurants in Massachusetts were also targeted, with strikingly similar calls.
Wendy's, too, in Massachusetts.
Yep. And interestingly, in these cases, both male and female employees were victimized.
Both male and female, that's interesting.
Initially, tracing these prepaid cards seemed like another dead end for investigators.
The fact that both male and female employees were targeted maybe suggests the motivation extended beyond just sexual gratification to a broader desire for power and control over people in subordinate positions.
That's a really good point. It indicates that the perpetrator's primary drive was likely the exercise of authority and the ability to manipulate others, regardless of their gender. But here's where it gets really interesting. Following the events of 9/11, security measures and surveillance capabilities were significantly enhanced.
Post 9/11 changes.
Exactly. This included changes that critically made prepaid calling cards traceable.
Okay, so technology caught up.
It did. And this led to a major breakthrough. The calls made to those 4 Wendy's restaurants were traced back to Panama City, Florida.
Panama City, Florida. Okay.
And guess what? The McDonald's call that Patty was investigating
Let me guess. Panama City.
also originated from Panama City. This geographical link was the first significant crack in the case. Finally, a connection.
Wow. That connection of seemingly disparate incidents to a single geographical location, it strongly suggested a single perpetrator operating out of Panama City, didn't it? Tying together that whole widespread pattern.
Absolutely. So investigator Victor then took the lead in the effort to pinpoint where the specific prepaid card used for the Wendy's calls was purchased.
Okay, so tracing the card purchase itself.
His investigation revealed that it had been bought on April 19th at a Walmart in Panama City.
Oh, Walmart, got it.
Now, you have to understand that reviewing Walmart security footage from that period was an enormous undertaking. Like searching for a needle in a digital haystack, especially with the tech back then.
Oh yeah, imagine the sheer volume of surveillance video.
Yeah.
Hour after hour, multiple cameras, painstaking work.
But they caught a lucky break. The telecommunications company was able to narrow down the purchase to a specific Walmart branch.
That helps.
And then they found him. A man, estimated between 30 and 40 years old, around 6.5 feet tall, black hair, purchasing the card on the date in question.
They got him on video buying the card.
Yes, Patty and Victor began to collaborate closely, realizing they were finally on the trail of the same individual.
That collaboration between investigators on related cases is so often crucial for solving complex crimes, isn't it?
Definitely. Sharing info, comparing details, pooling resources, it can lead to breakthroughs that one team might miss.
Yeah.
Now, the overhead video footage made positive facial recognition difficult.
Right, the angle wasn't great.
But then, they discovered another crucial shot. The same man entering the store at a different time, wearing a jacket and sunglasses, but with a very distinctive detail.
What was it?
A cloth strip on his trousers. This strip was identified as belonging to police trousers.
Police trousers. Wow, okay, that's big.
That detail is pretty much a smoking gun, right?
It strongly suggested the suspect had a direct connection to law enforcement, either currently or in the past, maybe a police officer or a prison guard.
Exactly. This provided Victor with a critical avenue for further investigation.
So he started looking into law enforcement in the area?
Victor focused his investigation on correctional facilities in the Panama City area.
Ah, prisons. Okay.
And eventually identified David Stewart as the individual seen in the video footage. His physical characteristics matched the description from the Walmart surveillance.
David Stewart. They have a name.
Finally, the painstaking process of identifying a suspect from limited footage and then connecting him to the location. It just shows the dedication of these investigators.
Absolutely. It highlights the persistence and attention to detail required, where these seemingly minor clues can ultimately lead you right to the suspect.
So, when Victor interviewed David Stewart, Stewart initially denied any involvement,
Of course.
even when directly confronted with the video evidence of him buying the prepaid calling cards.
Denied it even with the video.
Yep. He then abruptly stopped cooperating and refused to answer any further questions.
Typical reaction maybe, but still telling.
Based on this, investigators obtained a search warrant for Stewart's trailer and a separate cottage he owned.
Okay, so searching his properties, what did they find?
And they did find evidence. Inside Stewart's residences, they discovered numerous police-related magazines and job applications for law enforcement positions,
Ah, so an obsession.
indicating a clear and perhaps unhealthy obsession with law enforcement.
These findings strongly support the theory, then, that the perpetrator was motivated by this desire to impersonate and exert authority, stemming from a deep fascination with law enforcement.
It paints a picture, doesn't it? Someone not just randomly committing these acts, but likely driven by a specific psychological need to embody and wield the authority of a police officer?
Yeah, that fits the pattern.
Now, initially, the prosecutor in Kentucky was hesitant to file felony assault charges against David Stewart, incredibly viewing the acts as just a scam call.
Just a scam call. After everything, that seems dismissive.
Right. But Patty Stamp shared the extensive evidence his team had compiled, and eventually an arrest warrant was issued for Stewart.
Okay, good. So Patty pushed it through.
He was extradited and formally transferred to Mount Washington, Kentucky, to face charges of luring others to commit assault.
Luring others to commit assault. Okay.
He managed to post a significant bail amount, though. $100,000?
Wow, a hefty bail. The initial reluctance to pursue assault charges, though, it highlights a potential underestimation of the psychological harm inflicted and the coercive nature of these manipulations, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It underscores the importance of understanding the psychological impact of these crimes, which go far beyond simple financial fraud and involve significant emotional and psychological distress for the victims. So, at David Stewart's trial, the prosecution presented the evidence. The video footage clearly showing him purchasing the prepaid card used for the calls.
Right, the Walmart video.
And compelling testimony from the director of the correctional facility where Stewart worked, confirming that he was indeed the individual in the video,
Okay, confirming identity.
and that his work schedule often had him off duty during the times the calls were made.
Ah, showing opportunity.
Investigators also found identical prepaid calling cards at Stewart's home.
The same kind of cards.
Identical. The circumstantial evidence against Stewart was pretty substantial, you'd think.
It sounds like it. The prosecution built a strong case based on this chain of interconnected circumstantial evidence, linking Stewart to the purchase of the cards, his presence in the store, his connection to law enforcement, his availability.
Yeah, a strong web of evidence. But here's the truly shocking outcome.
Hmm.
Despite all this seemingly overwhelming circumstantial evidence,
Uh-oh.
the jury acquitted David Stewart.
Acquitted after all that.
Acquitted. They concluded that the prosecution had not provided sufficient direct evidence to definitively link him to making the specific phone calls and instructing the assaults themselves.
Wow, that outcome. It highlights a crucial aspect of our legal system, doesn't it? The high burden of proof required for a criminal conviction, beyond a reasonable doubt.
It really underscores that principle. Even with a strong web of circumstantial evidence, that lack of direct evidence tying the defendant to the specific criminal acts, well, it can lead to an acquittal.
Still incredibly frustrating for the investigators and the victims, I imagine.
Immensely. And let's not forget the aftermath for the other individuals caught in this web. Donna Summers, the assistant manager.
Right.
He reportedly received parole after serving some time. And Walter Vinn, Louise's fiancé.
Walter.
He served a prison sentence for his role in the assault on Louise, following the caller's instructions.
So they face consequences?
They did. And Louise, demonstrating incredible resilience and strength, filed a lawsuit against McDonald's.
Against McDonald's for what?
For failing to protect its employees from foreseeable harm. She initially sought $200 million,
Wow.
but ultimately reached a settlement for $6 million.
$6 million. That's still significant. Louise's lawsuit and settlement represent a major step towards accountability, right? And recognition of the trauma she endured.
Absolutely. It highlights the potential legal responsibilities of employers to ensure a safe working environment and protect their employees, even from these kinds of remote criminal acts.
That's an important point.
So to recap the key takeaways here, over a decade, a series of deeply disturbing and manipulative phone calls were made.
Driven by this bizarre and unsettling motivation of control and humiliation.
Impacting countless victims across the nation. Eventually, a suspect was identified, but due to the legal requirements for direct evidence.
He was ultimately acquitted for the assaults themselves.
What's truly unsettling, I think, is the ease with which this individual was able to manipulate so many people through just a phone call, exploiting their trust in authority.
It really makes you think about the power of suggestion, doesn't it? The vulnerabilities we all carry and how easily authority, even when it's falsely presented through just a disembodied voice, can influence our actions.
And that leads us to a final, perhaps unsettling thought for you, the listener, to consider. What is the broader psychological impact of such insidious manipulation? What specific vulnerabilities were exploited in these deeply disturbing situations? And ultimately, what does this decade-long saga reveal about our societal perceptions of authority, our ingrained tendencies towards obedience, and the surprising, often unsettling power of just a voice on the other end of a phone line?